like that. I like that. Maybe I'll start doing that.
Buddy is extremely smart. What a clever doggy. Right, on the way, we've got some Dua Lipa. First, though, at 7:30, it is time for Newsbeat with Stefan Powell.
More countries are added to the coronavirus quarantine list, and it's looking good for England in the cricket.
Newsbeat.
People coming to the UK from France and the Netherlands will be forced to quarantine for 14 days from Saturday.
There's a VJ Day 75 when speaking to him after the news. For now, this is BBC Radio 2 on the BBC Sounds Up, your smart speaker, and 88 to 91 FM.
And with the BBC News at 7 o'clock on Friday the 14th of August, this is Jason Kay.
3breakfast at bbc.co.uk is our email address. Friday the 14th of August, morning if you've just joined us. It's 7 o'clock. The BBC News Summary, Paul Guinery.
People arriving in the United Kingdom from France from 4 a.m. tomorrow will be required to go into quarantine for 2 weeks.
Coming up in the next hour, the Dutch government responds to the decision to put the country into quarantine, and we're live in France to hear how British holidaymakers are reacting.
You're listening to Today on BBC Radio 4 with Sarah Smith and me, Martha Connie. It's 7 o'clock on Friday, the 14th of August. The headlines. People arriving in the UK from France and the Netherlands will need to isolate for a fortnight as part of restrictions on travel to 6 more countries, which come into effect from tomorrow morning. More businesses, including bowling alleys and casinos, are being allowed to reopen in England, but there'll be bigger fines for those who repeatedly flout rules on wearing face coverings. The government's announced the purchase of millions of doses of 2 more experimental coronavirus vaccines. The BBC News is read by Chris Aldridge.
A 2-week quarantine is being imposed on people arriving anywhere in the UK from France because of sharp rises in coronavirus cases.
Unfortunately, it doesn't make up for all the ones we missed, sadly, while we were closed, but this wonderful weather and 14 weeks of having to stay at home and not travel, and now can go abroad but have to quarantine, is all coming together to make us busier than ever.
Yeah, I hope that. It's a shame that Taylor didn't put a lyric in there about picking up your litter and taking it home.
That would have actually been really helpful at this time. we are facing a few challenges.
Well, listen, it's going to be another wonderful weekend in the lakes. Thank you very much indeed. Well, a bit of peak Swift
on digital, BBC Sounds, smart speaker, and online.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
And with the BBC News at 7 o'clock on Friday the 14th of August, this is Jason Kay. Good morning. People arriving in the UK from France and the Netherlands will need to quarantine for a fortnight because of a rise in coronavirus infections in those countries.
Gold, the name of the tune. You're listening to 6 Music, me, Tom Ramscroft. It is time now for the 6 Music News.
6 Music.
This is BBC Radio 6 Music.
7 o'clock, I'm Catherine Cracknell. People arriving in the UK from 6 countries, including France and the Netherlands, will have to quarantine for 2 weeks from tomorrow morning.
It was finally at an end. For a war-weary nation, there was peace at last.
On the BBC Sounds app, on your smart speaker,
Play BBC Radio Derby.
and on your radio.
The sound of where we live is
BBC Radio Derby.
And with your 7 o'clock news, Sally Swinfen.
The government is imposing quarantine measures on people arriving in the UK from France and the Netherlands from Saturday morning because of rising numbers of coronavirus cases there.
Retreats that we'll be able to get back to all of our face-to-face meetings again, because it's very important for young people in this stressful time to have youth work.
Good luck. Moira McKenna, thanks.
on digital radio,
FM,
your smart speaker,
and BBC Sounds.
BBC Radio Scotland.
It's 7 o'clock. This is Good Morning Scotland with Bill Whiteford.
And Laura McKeever. The Scottish Government's under fire from a leading public health expert for not being transparent with its data.
Coming up, we'll speak to travel guru Simon Calder about what the latest quarantine restrictions will mean for you when they come into force tomorrow morning.
And we'll get the latest from Aberdeenshire as work continues to discover the cause of Wednesday's fatal derailment. That's all coming up between now and 9 o'clock this morning. But first, the very latest BBC News. People arriving in the UK from 6 countries, including France and the Netherlands, will have to quarantine for 2 weeks from tomorrow.
Not an easy thing to say at this time of the morning, let me assure you.
Not the Friday.
I'm glad I avoided that one.
On 92 to 95 FM and 1341 medium wave. This is BBC Radio Ulster.
So it's 7 o'clock. It is Friday, the 14th of August, and you're listening to Good Morning Ulster with Joel Taggart and Chris Buckler.
Today's top story, the fallout over the way A-level grades were estimated continues after over a third of pupils' results were reduced.
When I got my results, I was shocked, and I went from a B in my chemistry to an E. The sad thing is that this is people's lives.
With a flood of appeals expected, we'll be hearing from the head of the exams body, Justin Edwards.
Were you planning to go to France? Your plans might be about to change. We'll be talking about the decision to drop France from the UK's safe travel list because of a fresh surge in COVID cases in the country.
And we'll be hearing from the Northern Ireland artist whose painting now hangs in Downing Street.
All that to come on the programme, but first, at the top of this hour, let's get you the latest BBC News with Naomi.
Thanks, good morning. Rules requiring people to quarantine on arrival in the UK have been extended to France, the Netherlands, Malta, Monaco, the Turks and Caicos and Aruba.
Mae di bod yn hyfryd siarad y ti. Falch clywed bod yr anaf na wedi gwella ac ydy mae yn cadw'r freuddwyd yn fyw I ti I gyrraedd Tokyo blwyddyn nesaf, gobeithio. Diolch yn fawr iawn I ti am siarad yn i'r bore yma ac fe fyddwn ni yn dymuno'r gorau wrth I ti symud ymlaen â dy yrfa.
Diolch.
Mae'n 8 o'r gloch, bore da I chi, da chi'n gwrando ar y post cyntaf prif benawder bore. Cyfyngiadau yw cyflwyno bore fori a'r deithwyr sy'n dychwelyd yma o Ffrainc ar Iseldiroedd oherwydd cynnydd yn nifer yr achosion o Covid-19.
Aniddigrwydd yn parhau'r bore yma'n sgil y canlyniadau safon uwch, y blaid lafur yn galw ar Lywodraeth Prydain I ddilyn y siampl yr Alban a dyfarnu'r graddau osodwyd gan athrawon yn Lloegr.
A phrofiad disgybl o ysgol arbennig Pendalar o'r cyfnod clo.
Mae wedi neud I fi yn teimlo'n ddigalon a hefyd yn fed up yn tŷ.
Hyn a mwy I ddod yn ystod yr awr nesaf. Dewch I ni gael crynodeb o'r newyddion diweddarau I ddechrau gyda Nest.
Bore da I chi. Fe fydd yn rhaid I bobl sy'n cyrraedd Cymru a gweddill Prydain o Ffrainc ar Iseldiroedd hunan ynysu am bythefnos o fori ymlaen.
Most thing that is on people's minds.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for joining us this morning. That's Amanda Jones, the Company Director of Approved Cleaning Services in Nantgarw.
On FM.
Digital radio.
Your smart speaker.
And on BBC Sounds.
This is BBC Radio Wales.
Good morning, it's 7 o'clock, it's Friday. You're listening to BBC Radio Wales Breakfast with Natasha Livingstone. Welcome to the programme if you're just joining us this morning. Coming up, lockdown rules on meeting people indoors in Wales will not be relaxed this weekend as it was previously suggested. But up to 4 households will be able to form an extended household from Saturday the 22nd of August, as long as conditions remain stable. Also this morning, people coming to the UK from France, the Netherlands and Malta will be forced to quarantine for 14 days from tomorrow. The decision follows a surge in cases in the countries affected in recent days. All that's on the way, but first, let's get a roundup of this morning's news with Joe Langstaff.
Thanks, Tash. Good morning. The First Minister has confirmed lockdown rules on meeting people indoors in Wales won't be relaxed from this weekend as previously suggested.
Cover underwritten by UK General Insurance Limited. Visit audi.co.uk.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play Capital.
this is Capital News.
From Global's newsroom, I'm Rebecca Swash. From 4 a.m. tomorrow, anyone coming back from France will have to quarantine for 14 days.
Insurance Limited. Visit audi.co.uk.
Radio, ar Global Player,
Play Capital.
dyma Capital, newyddion.
O stafell newyddion global am 7 o fori ymlaen bydd rhaid i unrhyw rywun sy'n cyrraedd yng Nghymru o Ffrainc, yr Iseldiroedd neu Turks a Caicos fod mewn quarantine am 14 diwrnod.
Amazon Prime. Search Talk TV. Talk for everyone. Offer in 2nd of September, subject to availability. T's and C's apply.
On your radio.
On Global Player.
And here.
Play Capital Extra.
This is Capital Extra.
News.
From Global's newsroom, I'm Rebecca Swash. From 4 a.m. tomorrow, anyone coming back from France will have to quarantine for 14 days.
Audi.co.uk.
On your radio.
On Global Player.
And on your smart speaker.
Play Classic FM. This is Classic FM.
From Global's newsroom at 7 o'clock. New quarantine measures have been announced for anyone arriving into the UK from France.
Visit audi.co.uk.
On digital radio, on Global Player, and Play Gold Radio, playing the greatest hits of all time. This is Gold News.
From Global's newsroom, I'm Dominic Ellis. Government rules requiring people to quarantine on arrival into the UK have been extended to France, Malta and the Netherlands.
Cover and key cover underwritten by UK General Insurance Limited. Visit audi.co.uk.
On your radio, on Global Player and here.
Play Heart.
This is Heart. 7 o'clock, here's the latest.
From Global's newsroom, I'm Amy Stubbs. British holidaymakers in France right now are being told they'll have to self-isolate when they get back and
freshly ground McCafe white coffee, now just 99p. Unbelievable. Price and participation may vary. Delivery orders not included. Discount follows government's VAT reduction.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC News.
where the news never stops. This is LBC News.
From Global's newsroom, it's 6 o'clock on Friday, the 14th of August. I'm Lisa Aziz. Good morning. Here's the latest. The Foreign Office is warning against all but essential travel to France as people arriving from there to the UK will have to quarantine for 14 days. The new rules, starting from 4 a.m. tomorrow, also apply to those coming from several other countries, including Malta and the Netherlands. People can go to theatres, bowling alleys, casinos and music venues in England from tomorrow. Fines for repeatedly refusing to wear a mask will also double. From today in Scotland, hospitality venues will have to collect customer contact details for test and trace. The rules were changed following an outbreak of cases in Aberdeen earlier this month. And the Prime Minister says fans will be allowed into the Crucible to watch the World Snooker Championship final. Boris Johnson plans to resume trailing the return of spectators at sporting events in England from tomorrow.
LBC News. Weather.
Dry in the north, but humid and thundery in the south. Highs of 25 degrees. I'm Rebecca Swash. I'll have a full forecast in the next 15 minutes.
LBC News. Travel.
In London at Hanger Lane, the North Circular Road from Hanger Lane to Ealing Common is closed in both directions. That is due to a burst of water main. That's likely to get really busy during the rush hour. In Kent on the M25, the lane's closed anti-clockwise just before the M26 at Junction 5 for recovery work. Staffordshire, the M6, 2 lanes are closed northbound from Junction 14 at Stafford North to Junction 15 at Stoke-on-Trent due to a crash. Only the outside lane open. Cornwall, the A30, the westbound side is closed by the Callington turn-off. That is due to a crash. I'm Gary Scott. Your next update is in 10 minutes. here on LBC News.
This is LBC News.
And the time now, 6:02. Very good morning to you. The Foreign Office is warning against all but essential travel to France as people coming back to the UK from there will have to quarantine for 14 days.
On as they enter into the transport system, and generally speaking, people are pretty happy to comply.
Good luck with your children next Thursday. I hope they do well. Thank you. Grant Shapps, Secretary of State for Transport, appearing here on LBC, where the 8 o'clock news is next.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 8 o'clock. Hundreds of thousands of British holidaymakers in France are facing 2 weeks of self-isolation on their return.
30th of September 2020 for vehicles from 12 to 96 months old. MOT cover and key cover underwritten by UK General Insurance Limited. Visit audi.co.uk.
On your radio, on Global Player, and here.
Play Radio X.
This is Radio X News.
Just after 7 o'clock, here's Dominic Byrne.
From Global's newsroom, government rules requiring people to quarantine on arrival into the UK have been extended to France, the Netherlands and Malta.
And key cover underwritten by UK General Insurance Limited. Visit audi.co.uk.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play Smooth.
this is Smooth Radio.
From Global's newsroom, I'm Dominic Ellis. Government rules requiring people to quarantine on arrival into the UK have been extended to France, Malta and the Netherlands.
Maureen 118212. For directory inquiries, call Maureen on 118212. Calls cost $2.50 per call plus 75p a minute with a minimum 1 minute charge plus your phone company's access charge. Play Country Hits Radio.
On your smart speaker, mobile and your radio.
From the Hits Radio Network.
This is Country Hits Radio.
There are signs of a sudden rush of British holidaymakers trying to get back from France before quarantine rules kick in.
May vary, delivery orders not included. Discount follows government's VAT reduction.
Play Greatest Hits Radio.
On your smart speaker, on your mobile and on your radio.
Across the UK.
This is Greatest Hits Radio.
The Foreign Office is warning against all but essential travel to France as people arriving from there to the UK will have to quarantine for 14 days.
Please call Maureen on 118212. Calls cost $2.50 per call plus 75p a minute with a minimum 1 minute charge plus your phone company's access charge.
Play Hits Radio.
On your smart speaker,
Mobile.
And your radio.
this is
Hits Radio.
News.
There are signs of a sudden rush of British holidaymakers trying to get back from...
Offer valid until 30th of September 2020 for vehicles from 12 to 96 months old. MOT cover and key cover underwritten by UK General Insurance Limited. Visit audi.co.uk.
Online, on app, on digital radio and on your smart speaker. Playing the world's greatest jazz, soul and blues for 30 years. This is Jazz FM.
Good morning, it's 7 o'clock on Friday the 14th of August. You're listening to Jazz FM Breakfast with Nigel Williams. The news is read by Aileen O'Sullivan.
Hundreds of thousands of British holidaymakers in France are facing 2 weeks of self-isolation after the UK government added the country onto its quarantine list.
To infinity and beyond.
At home, in the car, at the zoo, on the train, at the park. Take the adventure with you.
Let's move!
All these and more now streaming. Disney Plus. 18 plus subscription required. T's and C's apply.
nationwide on Freeview, on your mobile, on your smart speaker, and at kerrangradio.co.uk.
This is Kerrang Radio.
The latest this hour, the Transport Secretary says that we cannot afford to re-import coronavirus cases from elsewhere after adding several countries to the UK's quarantine list.
30th of September 2020 for vehicles from 12 to 96 months old. MOT cover and key cover underwritten by UK General Insurance Limited. Visit audi.co.uk.
It's Magic Breakfast. It's Friday morning with Harriet Scott and myself, Ronan Keating.
More of the songs you love, Magic.
On digital radio, on the Magic Radio app, online and on your smart speaker.
Play Magic Radio.
The top stories this morning. The Foreign Office is warning against all but essential travel to France.
Until 30th of September 2020 for vehicles from 12 to 96 months old. MOT cover and key cover underwritten by UK General Insurance Limited. Visit audi.co.uk.
From the four corners of our planet, Planet Rock News.
The latest this hour, hundreds of thousands of British holidaymakers in France are facing 2 weeks of self-isolation after the UK government added the country onto its quarantine list.
Audi. Vorsprung durch Technik. Offer valid until 30th of September 2020 for vehicles from 12 to 96 months old. MOT cover and key cover underwritten by UK General Insurance Limited. Visit audi.co.uk.
On DAB Digital Radio.
Online.
On the app.
On Sky.
And on your smart speaker.
This is Scala Radio News.
The latest this hour, hundreds of thousands of British holidaymakers in France are facing 2 weeks of self-isolation after the UK government added the country onto its quarantine list.
So dream big, play small. Rules and procedures apply. Players must be 16 or over.
Across the UK, online and on DAB. Talk Radio on the Hour Headlines.
Good morning, I'm Ross Powell. On the way at 7, France added to the UK's quarantine list, more restrictions lifted at home, and could Northampton be the next town placed in local lockdown?
Talk Radio News.
Hundreds of thousands of British tourists in France face a race to get home this morning after the government announced it's going on the quarantine list at 4 a.m. tomorrow.
Play small. Rules and procedures apply. Players must be 16 or over.
The early sports breakfast on talkSPORT and talkSPORT 2.
Good morning, it is 6 o'clock. I'm Jenny Barsby. The UK quarantine list gets bigger.
And fans to be allowed back for live sport as part of the latest experiment.
talkSPORT.
Hundreds of thousands of British tourists in France face a race to get home after the government announced it's going on the quarantine list at 4 a.m. tomorrow.
Support for Tony Blair in various ways. This was 95 when he was sort of becoming leader of the opposition. It was quite clear he was going to win the next election whenever it was. This was the dying days of the Major administration. But it was class conflict and regional conflict. I think that was the crucial thing.
Absolutely. Tim Footman, really lovely speaking to you. I'm afraid we are running out of time, but fascinating to hear about the fight between Blur and Oasis on this day.
Across the UK, on DAB Digital Radio, on the free Times Radio app, and on your smart speaker, this is Times Radio. Know your times.
Good morning. If you're just joining us, it is 7 o'clock. This is Raya El-Salahi and Luke Jones with Times Radio Breakfast.
The headlines this morning: hundreds of thousands of British holidaymakers in France are facing 2 weeks of self-isolation after the UK government added the country to its quarantine list. And lockdown rules will be eased further in England from tomorrow. So-called close contact beauty treatments can resume. Up to 30 guests can attend wedding receptions and live indoor performances can restart.
And we'll fully brief you on where you can and can't go in the world and what you're now allowed to do in England. Plus, what does the former Universities Minister Lord Willits make of what some Conservative MPs have called a shambolic A-level results day? He'll be joining us live on the show.
It's Friday the 14th of August.
This is Times Radio.
But first, with the very latest news, here's Alex Dibble.
Ria, thank you. Good morning. Around 500,000 British people in France are facing 2 weeks of self-isolation when they return, after the UK added France to its quarantine list.
Right, 8722, you know where we are. We're getting loads of texts this morning. What was you on a Friday? Start your text with Virgin. Email us, chris@virginradio.co.uk. So much on the way. Just stay tuned if you don't believe me, and I'll tell you what when we come back.
The Chris Evans Breakfast Show with Sky Q. The best entertainment all in one place.
It's 3 minutes past 7.
DAB Digital Radio. On the app and on your smart speaker. This is Virgin Radio News.
I'm Amelia Cox. Our top stories this morning. People arriving from France to the UK will have to quarantine for 14 days from 4 a.m. tomorrow.